Hello everyone, it's Mystery here, and I have a bit more of a cerebral video for you today as opposed to some of my just covering the news lately. This one is thinking about Havoc as a game mode, and I I am not optimistic on its future. I think that it is likely going to sort of dry up and we're not going to see too much longevity out of it as a game type. It is going to suffer a fate similar, but not as bad as Weaves did. Weaves had this additional problem, if you didn't play, and Vermintide too. Weaves had this additional problem where it was impossible to find groups because you were locked to your certain level. But because it does still require a fixed group to play, you are going to run into similar issues very soon, probably within the month with Havoc, because you have to have a preset of 4 people, and I'll talk about this later, but those 4 people are going to get increasingly toxic and increasingly elitist, and they're going to have set expectations for the classes and builds that must be played in order to win as they proceed to optimize the fun out of the game. So we need to talk about why players will continue to want to play this game, or this game mode within the game. And that all comes down to incentives. And how I'm going to structure this video is this first part of the video, which will be in the timestamps, is talking about incentive structures in general. And then we're going to talk about the incentives in several different games that all have end game grinds. Because I may not be the most elite player in the world, but I've played a lot of fucking video games, and I've completed a lot of end game grinds and played thousands and thousands of hours. So I've experienced a lot of these games firsthand and can say why their end game grinds keep you returning and keep you playing, which is something that Darktide really, really needs. And Darktide is already stealing a ton of ideas from these other games, or one of them in particular, and so let's just go ahead and steal a few more and make this end game grind actually something we want to return to. So we need to talk about incentives. Firstly, we have material incentives. Material incentives are like loot or gold or anything that you can use in the game that's going to, further your playing of the game. We'll show this as an example in a second when we talk about our first comparison game. Then we have social incentives. These are the ways that you get a social boon either while interacting with other players, or other players are incentivized to play the game because they have socially interacted with you. This is a really big thing, especially in MMOs. And Darktide does have online interactivity. You see people in the Morningstar, so there is social interactivity. Think about it in the sense of, like, when you see people with a really unique armor, or you see people with there's like that one psyker frame that no one seems to know how that people get, with the fourth sword on the one side of it. You know what I'm talking about. When you see that, you ask how you get it, and then you go and try to get it, and that incentivizes you to play. And then the emotional incentives. Emotional incentives is just like, I would want to say fun, but sometimes emotional incentives aren't fun. Sometimes emotional incentives are short-term fun, where, like, okay, from moment to moment, this gameplay is cool and I like playing it, and whatever the end goal of that is whatever. It's all about playing it right now. But then some games are a fucking slog to play, and it's kind of mind-numbing. You just tune out to what's going on in the moment, but you're working towards something larger, and you're waiting for that payoff. So there's both short-term and long-term emotional incentives. Let's go ahead and take a look at our first case study for an incentive structure for an endgame grind, and this is the one that if you haven't noticed, or you have no experience with Mythic Dungeon and Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft, Havoc mode just completely ripped this mode off, right? So basically, let's see if this sounds familiar to you. While Mythic Dungeons, you have to complete a keystone that you are given each week, that is sent to you in the mail, that's proportional to the highest keystone you completed last week. So I think it's like, if you complete like a 14, you're sent a 13 or a 50 or whatever. You're sent like one that's right at that level next week, and then you can complete a mission and raise your mythic level week after week until your mythic level is very, very high. And having a higher mythic level makes the enemies harder. It makes the enemies drop better loot, or all that stuff. But then the really important thing is that at the end of the week, you get a key to a vault, or at the time it was. I played last in Shadowlands, and like many players, I will never fucking play again after Shadowlands. But at the time it was, whatever mythic dungeon you completed, or like the top 3 mythic dungeons you completed, it averaged them and it gave you access to a vault proportional to that. So you needed to complete 3, and the best 3 that you could possibly do gave you this vault, and you got to choose your loot from there. So does that sound familiar? Does it sound extra familiar if I say that you had to find a group with a person who had a key for a specific map if you wanted to play that specific map or that specific level, and it belongs to that player? And you, as a player, you don't get an upgrade to your key for playing alongside them, but next week you'll get mailed one because you did complete a mythic at that level. So like it's the exact same system basically. Okay, so let's talk about the material benefits to completing mythic plus dungeons in WoW. Obviously, loot and mounts are fucking huge in World of Warcraft. It's a loot chasing game, right? There is always a loot grind. And because there is always a loot grind, because you can always upgrade your weapons, there's no reason to stop playing this mode, because there is always a potential, even for endgame raiders, there is always a potential of getting a drop from Mythic Plus dungeons that is relevant to your character, because some Mythic Plus gear is just optimized better. Let's just put it that way. It's optimized better than stuff that you could get in certain raids. And so players will farm certain dungeons to try and get those drops. And then the social aspects of it. There are a lot of titles and clout that come with being a Mythic Plus raider, especially a Mythic Plus raider who's capped out. Just generally it's an MMO, so there's a lot of social benefits to being a raider who has a high like gear score or whatever. Players will inspect you and be like, holy shit, look at this fucking guy. And the mounts, the material mounts should actually be over here in social. When players see you with the has completed every dungeon at the highest possible Mythic Plus level, and they see that mount, they know that's what that means. They're like, holy shit, and the mounts look cool as fuck. Then for emotional benefits, you have both the short term, if you are a psychopath and you're a player who enjoys playing like WoW Mythic Plus content moment to moment, you'll get that short term boost. Some players I talked with actually do enjoy like playing Mythic Dungeons and the dynamics of Mythic Dungeons. And then other players do not enjoy the dynamics of playing the Mythic Dungeons, but they're purely in it for that week-by-week payoff. And that was me. I primarily enjoyed raid content because I like the large-scale spectacle of it. But like long-term, I would still play my 3 weeklies of Mythic Dungeons, because getting that fucking opening the vault was like the biggest fucking dopamine hit. Like I had to get it because like you never knew if you could get something really good. Gamba and all that. Gamba. All right, so that's Mythic Dungeons. Hopefully you can see the parallels in the design, but that the incentive structure is completely different because it's a completely different type of game. So let's go into a different type of game entirely. Not to spoil what's coming later, a completely different type of game entirely that has a completely different incentive structure. It's Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves has no end game really. It's all one big long ass game, and you do the same thing the whole time. You sail around the sea, you dig up treasure, you fight skeleton pirates, you fight other pirates, and you steal their treasure, and then you sell the treasure to the vendors, you get gold. There you go. That's the whole game. As far as material incentives, it's just about accruing gold and accruing gold and gold. What can you do with that gold? Well, that leads into these social aspects, which is you can customize your character and your ship. You can put cosmetics on them. There are no upgrades in this game, so there's no like, oh, I'm getting a better loot to do more damage or anything like that. It's all about just making your ship and your character as dripped out as possible. And this was a realization moment for me when I got Pirate Legend and I went down to the Pirate Legend hideout and I went to the vendor and I was like, well, there must be something interesting around here. And I looked at the vendor and I was like, oh, that's a cool ship part. How much? 7.5 million gold. And I was like, dude, I've never even held that much gold. That's just the bow part. The sails are also 7.5 million gold, and there's like 8 different parts. So in total, you're being asked to grind like 45 million gold to get a full ship dripped out like this. And then you see one in the wild and you're like, holy fuck, that looks cool. And you want to get it. It drives you to make that grind, to go and farm gold, because you can make it there. It's just a matter of perseverance. It keeps you returning for the gameplay. That's what this is all about, remember? Incentives. And then for emotional, it's really mostly about the short term, like moment to moment, like the feeling of sailing, like what could happen next? Am I going to be ambushed by a fucking kraken? Fuck, please no. God damn it, this storm. I cannot get out of this stupid fucking storm. It keeps turning my wheel when I'm trying to put out fires. all that stuff, that short-term experience really, really sells Sea of Thieves. And there is a bit of a mid to long-term like incentive when you're cashing in all of your loot that you earned over the course of the day, but you have to do that before you log out or else it's all lost. So it's really not that long-term at all. Okay, then we're going to look at Warframe, Deep Archimedia. Warframe is a grind game. If you love grinding, you probably have played Warframe, or you know what I'm talking about. Now, the material rewards for playing Warframe is just yes. The only reason we are playing Warframe and continue to play Warframe is we want more materials, because we have to grind materials to make the best weapons and to get the, better mods on the weapons, and to put the right Archon shards and Tau Forged Archon shards into our gear. And we can only get Tau Forged Archon shards and Archon shards from playing like 3 different game modes, and one of them is Warframe Deep Archimedia. And the reason why Warframe, or Deep Archimedia has persistence and people return to play it week after week is it is more efficient and more it's better for grinding than the other modes. And this is my example of this game is it's not really social. Players aren't playing Deep Archimedia to be social, and they're not playing it because, oh my god, this is so fun to use a frame that sucks ass and a weapon that I hate, and then grind out 3 missions for like the next hour or so. But they're there because at the end of that mission, they're getting the payout that they can only get from this game mode. And this game mode gives the best payout compared to a couple other game modes. And that's the sort of player that is drawn to Deep Archimedia or drawn to Warframe in general. So you don't need to have any social interactions here. You don't really need a moment-to-moment gameplay to be fun. You just need that payout to be worth it. So we could learn something from this for Darktide as well, if that payout is worth it. Okay, and then let's take a look at one final example, something very comparable to Darktide because it's Vermintide 2. It had a game mode called Chaos Waste, and this one is very different still. There was no material reward to playing Vermintide Chaos Waste because Chaos Waste, if you didn't play it, you didn't have to have a weapon, like a upgraded weapon at all to play it. In fact, you didn't even have to have a leveled character. It helped you to have a level character because you would get additional boons starting the run. You would just get to keep what you had in your character, but you could have a gray weapon and go in and play this game. So you completely skip the loot progression system of the base game, and it gave you nothing in return, or it gave you like chests that you didn't really need for playing the base game. But if you just wanted to play Chaos Waste, you didn't need those materials. So there was no material benefit to playing it. The social benefits were that this game mode had way more people that were actively like talking and interacting with each other, because wild and crazy things can happen. You would be so excited and you want to share it with your team that, holy fuck, I just got lightning. I just fucking got chain lightning. Yes, fuck you. I'm gonna top the damage charts this time. Like that was the fun aspect of it, was like you could get these really broken builds and you'd want the other players on your team to see you showing off like, wait, why is Barden not dying? He's completely surrounded by Chaos Warriors. Oh yeah, I just got lucky and got all the taunt perks, or all of the block perks, and I'm literally invincible now. That was fun. That was actually fun, and like the social aspects of that, I met a lot of friends playing it. Super cool social interaction, because it's such a wild and crazy time. And then emotionally, it's all in that short term. It's all about the moment-to-moment gameplay, because there is nothing after. After you complete a Chaos Waste mission, that's it. You're just ready to go again, because it's a roguelike game mode, so it's literally different every time, and you can keep playing it and you'll keep having a renewed amount of fun because it's completely random what boons you get every time. So your enjoyment varies depending on whether or not you get good luck at what boons drop, but it's all about like, oh my gosh, I got the fucking like poggers like boon setup right now. I'm gonna be a fucking god, and you actually don't want that like fun to end. So that is all the different sort of like games that I have played into Endgame, or like some of them, right? And let's compare that to where Havoc is at right now. So Havoc, for materials, well, materials are going to drop once per week. They drop from the chest, much like, almost exactly like Mythic dungeons do. You get a chest full of materials proportional to the highest Havoc dungeon that you cleared, right? We don't need those materials. Most players don't anyway. If you're playing Havoc, you have to have completed a Maelstrom mission. Most players have completed an Auric Maelstrom mission. And if you're completing Auric Maelstrom missions, there's a decent to good chance that you do not need any more plasteel or diamantine. you know, I have not to brag, but I have maxed out the masteries on every single weapon in the game, and I am still floating 1.5 million credits and 100,000 of plasteel and diamantine. I don't need these materials, and a lot of other players don't too. And as time goes on, more and more time goes on, less and less players will need these mats, or materials. So there is no material benefit to playing this game. For social aspects, there is, in the short term, a social incentive to play this game because you could be one of the first couple of people who has the 35, level 35 plus don't get downed or have anyone on the team get down title. And people will see that and be like, oh, how'd you get that title? And you're like, yeah, I just did this. No big deal, but yada yada. Like, that's a positive social interaction or a reason to like grind for that. There's going to be a little bit of clout associated with having a seeing someone on the list and being like highest clearance level 40 and being like, holy shit, that guy fucks. Like, that's going to happen in the short term. But again, as time goes on, like within the month, it will be very common to see players that have 40, I imagine, because players will boost their friends or players will just get fucking good. So that sort of stuff is going to be very fleeting. And the other thing is that, like, well, let's talk about this in the emotional part here. It's all short term, right? It's all about the fun that you're having in the moment. When the game finishes, when you finish a Havoc mission, you don't get anything. It just says, hey, congratulations, you can go on the next Havoc mission. And then you have to wait a full week to get some materials that you don't really care about. So the emotional rewards are all about how fun it feels to play in any given moment. And for Havoc, that can vary from, hey, this is pretty fun, honestly. Like, I like this challenge, to, man, this is really fucking frustrating and I wish I could kill myself right now. That is sort of like, it's not really there comparatively to Chaos Waste's emotional short term, which was like pretty much every run was pretty dang fun. But a lot of Havoc missions I get into, especially like below 25, has been super boring, like, to be honest with you. So there's just not that emotional drive. And remember that the long-term goal for a lot of people, like the long-term payoff for people right now, is to get to 40 and say, I fucking did 40 Havoc. Fuck yes. And I can tell you right now, that is going to feel really good when I do that. I will do that. It'll take me some time probably because I'm not getting a whole lot done today considering I'm recording this video instead of playing, but it will take me some time. I'll get it and then I'll be like, fuck yeah. But I don't know if I'll pick it up and play it again the next day. You know, I don't know if I'm going to log back in again the next day and be like, let's go do a 40 again. That kicked ass. Probably not. I'll probably be like, all right, I did a 40, dust my hands off, and, go do something else. So I'm worried about Darktide having longevity for this game mode because of these issues. There's just no incentive to play. And there's a couple of other issues that I have with the way the game mode is set up and its incentive structure. So now we've completed this first part. Let's pivot to the second part. And I'm going to tell you what my problems with Havoc's incentive structure is, how we can fix it, and how we can also fix the additional problem that is players optimizing the fun out of the game. All right, I'll see you in part 2. Like and subscribe. All right, everyone. So now we're to the part where everyone is actually going to tune in and really pay attention, because this is the part where I'm going to tear down Havoc a little bit and tell you everything that's wrong with it currently, from a incentive perspective. We can talk all day about what's wrong with like the actual gameplay moment to moment of it, but let's talk about why players aren't going to continue playing this game or this game mode, and it's going to die out. So the first reason why it's going to die out is it doesn't offer anything unique to its own game mode. It has no incentive to play it. You get materials that you very likely don't need, especially if you're a high level player and you're accomplishing 35 plus Havoc levels. You almost certainly have more materials than you could ever need in your lifetime. Even lower level players, they've got plenty of materials these days, especially considering the weapon grind is completely deterministic now, and they just know to craft their dueling sword and craft their plasma gun and they're done, right? Most newer players are not wasting millions and millions of resources on crafting all these random ass weapons. They're just crafting the ones that are good and in the meta. And even for a player like me who has every weapon mastery maxed out, not to brag, but that didn't actually cost that much materials. And now I'm floating a fuck ton of materials again. I have like 80,000 of each of the materials, and these Havoc rewards that are going to come, the chest that drops just diamantine and plasteel, as far as we know, is not going to give me anything. So that reward is out the window. What about the social rewards? Well, the social rewards are, there's a couple of penances. There's like a title, right? And then there's the cosmetics that come with completing Havoc penances. Well, the problem with that is that all of those cosmetics, except for I think the pants, are achievable by just spamming level 1 Havocs. So that's not really anything that's like hard or gonna be like, oh my gosh, did you see that guy? He's wearing the Havoc armor. You're not gonna have that moment because they probably just spam level 1 Havocs, right? And then even the titles that are for completing a level 35 plus without having any downs, like that's impressive now, but it's going to get less impressive over time. And a player might be incentivized to go and play the mode to get that title, but once you've got the title, you've got the title, right? All of the social incentives with Havoc are instantaneous, and once you have them, you're done. Once you've got the penances for completing the whatever it is, once you've got the penances, you've got the penances. Once you've completed a 40, you've completed a 40. There is no reason to continue playing week after week. So we need to do something to get players to come back week after week. And then we have to talk about the emotional, or like the fun aspects of it. Is it really that fun to play moment to moment? Oh, and the bigger concern is it really that fun to play compared to the regular game mode? Because there is a disadvantage or a disincentive to play Havoc versus playing the regular game mode, and that's just based around the party system. The fact that you can't quick play into this, which a lot of players are very accustomed to in this, this age of mindless quick playing, is going to contribute to its downfall. Because when players start to leave the party finder gets exponentially worse, right? The more players you lose, the less players that are available, and therefore the more players that leave because they can't fill their groups. And what's going to happen to the remaining players is we either have people who have been playing Havoc religiously and are at 40, and they only play 40s basically with their friends, and they need to pug like 1 or 2 people, but they are going to turn down anyone that doesn't have a 40 already in, on their record, because you can see what people's Havoc clearance is on their profile. So they'll start getting elitist, and they'll chase out players, like lower level players won't be able to find groups, and they'll be forced to group with themselves. And, at a certain point, there won't be enough players left to feed the system, because there's nothing to keep you coming back here other than, oh, I want the challenge. And we already talked about in the last part, there's a cohort of players who want their cocks crushed with Havoc, but it's not that big a cohort, and it's not difficult enough to justify the frustration of having to find 4 people every single time you want to do it, and it being completely random and not rewarding you anything past the first time you do it. I mean, Dark Knight has that problem in general of it doesn't reward you anything for completing missions, but at least the gameplay is fun moment to moment. And I just don't know if the trouble that it's worth of putting a group together to play Havoc is gonna eke out over the moment to moment gameplay, the fun that you get from playing it moment to moment. So that's the problems we have with Havoc, and why I think it stands a good chance of sort of withering on the vine as it currently stands. But what can we do to fix that? Well, I've got a 2-part plan. The first part is about changing the reward structure, the incentive structure that Havoc has to keep players coming back every week and playing to their highest possible level every week. And the second part is to disincentivize playing with the best possible stuff and making the game a monotonous slog. Because once I show you the rewards, those of you who have gremlin brain, in the nicest possible way, will immediately think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna farm the fuck out of this. If this was put in the game, I would farm this every week. And I can already tell you my setup for my team. We need to do something to break that meta where players will optimize the fun out of anything. So if we leave them to their own devices, what they'll do is they'll come up with, this is the best group. It is 2 veterans, 1 psyker, 1 zealot, running these weapons and these ultimates, and then go. And then they will turn down anyone for the group that doesn't fit that criteria, and that's how they'll run their missions every week. we need to do away with that, or find a way to bust it up. Or if not bust it up, we can still let those players have their fun with their set groups with the most powerful possible setup and just roll over easy. But we're going to add extra incentive to doing it in a harder or different way. Okay, so let's get started. What's this plan? Well, first, what we need to do is we need to change what drops from those Havoc chests. No one needs the fucking materials. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to drop tokens. I'm just calling them tokens for now. You call them whatever you want, but they're tokens. They drop, and they are proportional to the top 3 Havocs or Havoc clearance missions that you did in the last week. So if you cleared 3 40s, let's say that you get 1 token for every 5 levels of Havoc that you cleared. So if you cleared a 5, you get 1 token. If you cleared a 40, you get 8 tokens. And therefore, clearing 3 40s will get you 24 tokens. Yay! Okay. But why 3? Why not just 1 and then just scale down what you would purchase with the tokens by 3? Well, the reason behind this is, 1, if you have a game mode where you join in and you just have to play 1 Havoc to get all of your rewards you possibly need for the week, that's just going to be a 1 and done. People are going to pick it up, they're going to play the 1 and they're done. At least having players play 3 Havocs requires them to engage with the system a little bit more. If you play 3, chances are you might end up playing more. If you play 1, you're probably just gonna dip it for the week and be done with it. Since this is going to be rewards that are unique to Havoc, I want players to be invested in playing it for a good amount of time to get the actual reward in playing it, right? Is playing the game and having fun and growing your skill and stuff. It's not actually the stuff that's here, but it's going to trick you into playing it more. All right. The other reason why we are going to make it 3 Havoc clears instead of 1 that our reward is based on is because it'll make it so much harder for players to boost. Because what players will do is they'll say, oh, I just need to get 1 Havoc clear for the week. Well, I'll just join in with my friend Tommy, who clears 40 every week like it's no problem, and he'll boost me for 1 game, and I'll get my reward next week. Well, instead of it just being a quick 30-minute mission, now you have to invest the time to get 3 full Havoc clears. And you could still boost and get a couple of extra tokens, but honestly, is it really worth it to get boosted for 3 whole games and just get your shit kicked in for 3 whole games when you're not that level of a player? Or you could play 3 games on 28 and you would only get 36 less tokens on the week, or whatever, or not 36, but you'd only get a small proportion less tokens for completing 3 28s rather than 3 40s, and it just disincentivizes boosting. You're never going to be able to stop people from boosting, right? But this makes it harder to just have groups that are out there like, yo, we will boost you for the next 2 hours to get your 3 Havoc cleared for the week. Yeah, okay. All right, what's next? What do we do with these tokens? Well, we are going to purchase wares from the Commissar Duquesne with them. And Commissar Duquesne, she is coming from somewhere else, right? She's not from the Morning Star. She's not really even supposed to be here, but she showed up just to do an inspection, and she has access to stuff that you can't get anywhere else. And she's not going to let you just buy it if you just walk in there with the tokens to do it. You have to have proven yourself to a certain extent to have earned the privilege to purchase these things from her. And that means that if you have a clearance level or a Havoc clearance level of 20, you have access to this set. If you get 30, you have access to the previous set and another. And if you get to 40 or whatever the maximum is, you have access to her whole wares. Now, this solves a problem. These two in combination solve a problem that the current Havoc system has, which is once you complete a penance or get the cosmetic, you are done. That's it. You've got the cosmetic, you're done. This is going to be a system where just because you've cleared a 40 doesn't really mean anything. You could get boosted and clear a 40, but what you need to do in order to make anything happen out of that and in order to get what you want is to play every week and get your tokens so that you can purchase things from the 40 shop. And what's in this shop? Well, it's cosmetics. Duh, right? That's the only thing that's going to be valuable in the game. We don't want to sell weapons because everyone already has the fucking weapons they want. And the cosmetics are going to be tiered. They're going to show that, yes, all of them have this theme where it's very obviously this is a Havoc set, or to use lack of a better word. The 20 set is like the most basic. The 30 has some little flares and accoutrements, and the 40 is like completely geared out. When I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about the Zealot gear from like right when the game dropped, when clearly they were working on this stuff. They had like the Zealot who has little spiky shoulder pads, the Zealot who has the spiky shoulder pads, and he's starting to get like some of the like the purity scripts like they're hanging from him. And then the top tier one is the one with the candles on the shoulder, right? It really stood out when you saw a player with that because it had an actual like animated effect and it had a glow around their body. So we want stuff like that really stands out and grabs the eye. And it's okay if they don't want to make this a physical cosmetic that goes on characters because they're selling those in the cash shop. What they could do instead is they could make them the cosmetics for your character border, because that's another thing that doesn't have enough things in the game. We have these little character borders and the little bar thing next to it, like your little medal or your medallion. Those things could have specific Havoc variants that you can unlock. And what I'd love to see return is animated portraits, and those should be exclusive to the 40 clearance level. You should have to spend a lot of your tokens and get your animated portrait, because in Vermintide 2, people didn't just run the one that had the border that had the highest achievement they could have possibly done. They ran the ones that looked the coolest, and those often had like special animations. Like I had one that was like a silver wolf's head that had like snowflakes falling down on it. What happened to those animated borders for our characters? I'd love to get those, and having those as an unlock specific to Havoc would be really, really cool. Yeah, we get like different options. Like that would be such a low rent thing to do, is like have one with like flames animated on it, have one with ice animated on it. There you go. Okay, so tiered cosmetics, and these cosmetics need to be really expensive. Like 20 and 30 can just be stuff that you buy with like 1 week of play. But when we're talking about the stuff at that high tier, remember the goal is not to be like, hey, you got it, you cleared a 40, finally, you can go ahead and buy it. We want players to continue to return week after week, and in order to be able to purchase these things. And I am stealing this idea from Sea of Thieves, because Sea of Thieves has this down to a T. They have those cosmetics in the shop that are only accessible to Pirate Legends, who have already gotten 50 in 3 different classes, or 3 different like emissaries, and they spent a lot of time in the game. But now the real grind has begun. You need to get 40 million gold in order to get these things. So this should be a tier that requires returning week after week. I'm talking like, maybe a month or a month and a half of getting your 40 Havoc clearances 3 times a week in order to get a full set of cosmetic drip for the Havoc stuff. And it would be very easy for Fat Shark to look at this and say, okay, well, do the math. If this is the maximum number of tokens you can get per week, then the sweatiest possible players have unlocked all of our cosmetics by this week here. So we'll need to come up with some new cosmetics by this date. And there you go. Currently, remember, players are doing this stuff with 0 incentive. They're just grinding it right now. But pretty soon, they're going to start to want some incentive to replay it. And this is going to be that incentive, is there's going to be something to grind for. Oh yeah, it requires multiple weeks. Okay, and then, so this is the whole new system. This is the reason why you want to return and play every week. But you're going to return and play every week. What's to stop players from just optimizing the fuck out of it and being like, looking for 1 Zealot, 2 Veterans, Am Psyker, you must play this class, and have these ultimates with these weapons, or I'm banning you, I'm blocking you, shut the fuck up. Here's how we do that. We are going to add additional incentive to playing with randomly chosen weapons through a system just like the Deep Archimedes system that's in Warframe. So Warframe, what the limitations are is it says, okay, you have these 3 frames or these 4 frames to choose from, and you have these 4 weapons, primary, secondary, and melee to choose from, and then you have these additional like impacts that you can put on just your character. But let's throw those last parts out and let's just keep it to, okay, the game tells you can either use Veteran's Executioner's Stance, Ogren's Taunt, or Psyker's Bubble, right? Those are your 3 choices. And then you have to choose which one that you are comfortable with playing, and it might get you out of your comfort space and playing like an off pick for you that week. It's going to get you to diversify, and it might say that okay, you know, you can use either the Katachan Dueling Sword or not Katachan, Devil's Claw, or the dagger, or the Thunderhammer, right? Those are your choices for melee weapon for this class this week, and you have to pick one of them. And let's say, like, these are completely optional challenges, right? So if you pick all of them, all the limitations possible, you get additional tokens. So players that are really, really good and skilled and want to get their stuff, want to get their cosmetics sooner, are going to take up some or all of these challenges because they fucking can. Players who aren't can still just pick their comfort picks. They can pick the best possible loadout just because they want to get their 40 clearance and a nice assured victory. They don't want to have to meme with having a really bad ability and trying to make it work like that. So that is the way that we get players to play outside of the meta, because there is now an incentive for those extra sweaty players to do something that is not meta. So there you go. And then, okay, so that's my full rework for the system. Now, this obviously requires creating cosmetics and stuff, and I know that Fat Shark does not have infinite art assets to do that. Here is my bootleg version of this. If they don't want to do any of this, if they don't want to put in work to create this new system to like incentivize people to play different ways and make it actually fun, here's the bootleg way to do it. Literally, just put Aquilas in the chest. Every 5 Havoc, like your Havoc level, whatever the threshold of 5 you get to, you get 10 times that many Aquilas. So if you get to Havoc level 5, you do 1 Havoc level 5 in the week, you get 50 Aquilas. Whoop-de-fucking-do. If you complete a Havoc level 40 in the week, you get 400 whole Aquilas. Guys, did you know that 2,400 Aquilas is like $12? So 400 Aquilas is like $2, and this is fake money, right? This isn't them giving away their Fat Shark's hard-earned money. This is them giving out, you know, bonus currency, and it's a win-win situation because players are going to return to earn more money for this. If they want to buy a full cosmetic set, yeah, some players are going to grind for 6 weeks to get at 2,400 currency by completing their 40 every week in order to get enough currency to buy the thing they want. But a lot of players are going to like get their currency for 1 week, and they're going to be like, all right, well, you know, I'm kind of close to getting this thing. I'll buy like a little bit. Like it just boosts them and puts them a little bit closer towards buying something. And for a lot of players, they might be like, oh, I have a little bit of Aquilas. I'll buy. Oh, I just need a little bit more. I'll play next week. And they don't quite get it, and they'll purchase a little. There's no harm to giving out some of this premium currency just at like this really slow drip rate to get people to return to playing. And the other thing you would do with this is you would just open up the shop so that people can purchase anything from the Aquila shop at any time, because people are going to want to look for the thing that they want, and they're going to want to grind for week after week to target farm for that one thing, and it would be super defeating if it rotated out while they were in the middle of that grind. So there should be things that you can like flag and say, I want that, when it's in rotation and it stays there, or just preferably the whole shop is available at one time. Okay, so that's a very bootleg version of it, and I could see them not liking that too because it does cut into their bottom line, albeit very slightly, but I think this is a great idea. I really, really hope that they do something to steal this ideas. The other thing that needs to happen is that Havoc needs to go up to 50, and there needs to be more mutators, but I know they're already working on that stuff, so I won't even belabor that point. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you like this huge ramble video, if you like some of the ideas I had here, let me know down in the comments. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you for watching. And this has been Mr. E, and I'm out of here. Gonna go play some more Havoc. See ya.